in Recovery. And today we have a special guest named Gretchen Schoser. And we're just going to welcome her up to the stage and she's going to tell you her story of hope. So tune in. This should be a good one. Hey, how's it
Oh,
going?
Jay, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you for showing up.
Well, huge shout out to Pete because you know what? He's the one who brings us all together and Podmatch.
Pete is an awesome person. I've known him since he started his show. So it's been great. I mean, there's nothing, Pete's been an awesome inspiration to me.
Yeah, he's such a great guy, and I'm just so thankful that you wanted me to come out here and be on your show. And you know, my story is kind of hard, but it's also a story of hope. And everything for me started in 2022. So the last quarter of 2022, a lot of shit happened, like a lot. I was 59 and a half at the time everything went down. And I grew up in an era where we don't talk about what's going on inside of us, right? We shove that down until it absolutely has zero place to go. But for me, it was a lot of little things that just really ended up getting really bad. And for me, you know, I I'm a true extrovert. I'm an empath, so I'm used to just taking care of everybody, but apparently I didn't take a very good care of myself. And so at the beginning of the last quarter of 2022, I'd been working for a company for 15 years and we had been acquired, and the environment became pretty toxic. And so like every day I would like pray I would win the lottery. Well, that lottery dream kinda came true because they offered me an early retirement, and dude, I'm telling you, it took me less than 6 hours to sign that paperwork. I'm like, "You wanna pay me to leave? Good, bye." And, in all ways, that should have been a good thing, but remember, I was 59 and a half at the time. There's still ageism out there in the workforce, and I wanted to work. I have a bunch of bougie toys that, I still wanted to be be able to play with. So that was number 1, and then number 2, my wife ended up getting shingles, and if you've ever been around anybody that's had shingles, there's absolutely nothing you can do for them, nothing. Trying to take care of my wife, trying to figure out what my next plan is, and then on top of all of this, I hit and killed a deer. I was mortified. I got catfished, but thankfully my brain kinda, like, came back into tact, and I didn't end up paying any money to this fake person. And then we lost a really close friend of ours unexpectedly, and then my father-in-law died, 2 days before Thanksgiving, thrown a little seasonal depression, a little holiday depression, and then at work, they had been peeling back all of my work. So, I'd been there for 15 years, and I was starting to feel worthless because I would sit there for 8 hours a day and do nothing. And then, here comes December, and, we had taken a really fun trip. Well, it was supposed to be a fun trip to New York City, and people should have been catching up to the fact that I wasn't good in the head. People would ask me how I'm doing, and I'd be like, "Hey, I'm doing fine," because as an extrovert, we throw on that mask, and if you're throwing on your mask right now, take it off because the only person you end up hurting is yourself. Because, as I said, nobody knew how depressed I was. So we go to New York City. It was the worst trip of my life, and if you ever wanna just rehash that, go listen to my podcast. It's season 1, episode 3. Maybe don't listen at work, it is not safe for work. I use the F word a lot. But, I got super drunk. I lost my cell phone in an Uber. I broke my nose, and nobody could put 2 and 2 together. So, come Christmas Day, I was out of sorts. I was just done, and I had gone outside, and I wanted to go for a drive, but, I live in upstate New York, and, apparently that wasn't in the plans because it was -22 here, and I went out to start my car, and my car wouldn't start. And by that time, I was just completely done. So, I came back into the house. I don't even think my wife knew I had come home. Went upstairs, I had a bottle of pills waiting for me on my nightstand, and I emptied the bottle of pills into my hand, and my hand was shaking, and I was so done. with everything. Like, I had so much pain because the problem was is I took care of everybody else, but I didn't take care of me. And I had remembered that a couple months before I had read about the 988 suicide and crisis hotline, and I called them because at the same time that I'm holding these pills in my hand, I had a voice telling me that things were gonna get better, and I didn't know what to do, and I was scared. I was terrified of what I was about to do. Um, when I called 988, the lady on the other end of the line was the most compassionate person I've ever spoken to in my entire life. She gave me voice to what was going on inside my head. I was depressed, but I didn't know that because, like I'd said, I hadn't ever felt anything like that in my entire life, and it was just a lot to handle. And so after that call, I went down and talked to my wife. We talked for about 3 hours, and she was mad. She was mad that I didn't open up to her, but at the time, and in my defense, I didn't know how to open up to her because I didn't have the words for what was going on inside of my head. And so after that talk, they got me scheduled with a therapist, and, that was helping, and then the next day, I decided to open up to social media because, as I said, I'm a true extrovert. I have a bazillion friends out there. Once I opened up onto social media, I had about 200 people reach back out and say thank you because now they felt seen, they felt heard, they felt validated, and then felt so alone and terrified. And I mean, I've been a people pleaser my entire life. That quickly changed after getting into therapy. But I wanted people to understand that, I was gonna be okay and that I was gonna work really hard to get to that other side of depression. So, telling my story was my first healer. My second healer was laughter. And so my co-host, Dirty Skittles, that's where she comes in. Now, Dirty Skittles had been my manager, and I use that term super loosely because I retired like 4 months later. But we'd been friends for like 7 years. And we would call each other every morning, and we would laugh about stuff he should never, ever, ever, ever laugh about. But here's the cool thing about laughter. It breaks up that cortisol in your system, increases your serotonin and your endorphins, and it just makes things better. And I was during one of those conversations, she's like, "Let's do a podcast." So we ended up doing a podcast. We co-host the podcast shit that goes on in our heads, and it's shit with an exclamation point because you you know the Google police won't let you use the real name. I don't know why. Hang on, I'm taking a drink.
No problem. You know, and I hate to interrupt you on the way you're going, but for me personally, I dealt with. So I know you touched on the topic of suicide just a hair, yet I lost my wife to suicide in our addiction. That was a little over a year ago, and I still carry a lot of guilt for that. I know it wasn't my fault, but I still carry lots of guilt. Like, honestly, it's hard. And I talk to many people that have tried to commit it, and I understand the emotions and the feelings and everything else going into it and why they would want to. But I'm on the other side of that. And some of my listeners, I know one of them, if she's in here, Miranda, she tried taking her own life, and she still got the bullet in her head. And so we connected on a different level because, she's a survivor of attempted, and luckily, and here I am on the other side of it, and literally had to find my wife unalived and cut her out of the closet, and that ended my addiction. But still, I still carry all that what if. I still question that what if sometimes. So it's terrible.
And Jade, some of those thoughts are what was coming through my head too, right? Like, what how is this going to affect my wife? How's this going to affect all the other people? So I wasn't just thinking about myself at that point. I was thinking about everybody else. But I'm not a super spiritual person, but my mom and I had a really close relationship, and I felt like my mom was kind of in the room guiding me, telling me that things were gonna get better, and they did. So, like, I want you guys to see my story as a story of hope because I took all that horrible, gross pain and turned it into a beautiful purpose. So, Dirty Skittles and I decide to, go ahead and start this podcast. And we thought, okay, you know what? We're only going to get like 3 episodes in. Joke was on us. We launched our podcast on February 14th, 2023, in honor of my mom. I buried my mom in 1997 on Valentine's Day and kind of wanted to change the trajectory of that day because for years that day sucked. So, we start doing the podcast and we're like, we're gonna do more than 3 episodes. Joke's on us. By April of that year, we'd already had 10,000 downloads. I'm still trying to figure out who listens to us because we are not clinical by any means. We're the exact opposite of that. So, then we ended up winning a couple of awards in 2024, and as of July 17th, 2025, we have 2 million downloads. We're listened to in over 100 countries. But there was a lot of other shit that happened between that. So I had gone to work for a small consulting firm because, after I left corporate America, I really didn't want to do that again. And ended up working for a small consulting firm. Really loved it until November of 2024. They got acquired by one of the top 5 consulting firms out there. And, I had compromised my entire life and I was not going to compromise this time. And I had resting bitch face. Okay. Like you can't turn it off, right? Once it gets turned on, you can't turn it off because I was that unhappy. And this time everybody knew where I stood. I was super, super depressed again. But by this time, I had better tools. That's the power of therapy right there. I had better tools to deal with what was going on. And I, people were calling me out on team calls. They're like, you need to change your face. And I'm like, I can't. Okay. Like once it's on, it doesn't get turned back off until I feel better. And so my wife and I were in New York City for the holidays, and we'd gone out to dinner on December 21st. And she's like, I know you really hate your job. You can quit. So, like, if you've ever had somebody give you permission to quit a horrible job, it was like a weighted X-ray blanket coming off my shoulders. Like, I just had this sense of relief. But then again, like we had when I had my early retirement, I need my bougie toys.
Right.
And so we were flying home on the 22nd, and I forgot how long it takes to de-ice a plane. Thank God it takes like 2 hours. So I had my phone, I had ChatGPT, and I had my resume. And so I threw my resume into ChatGPT. I'm like, based on my 45 years of corporate America and everything I've done with the podcast, form an independent consulting firm. Coolest thing ever, man. Like 2 minutes later, it spit out like all the stuff that I could do in a consulting firm. I chopped off about 2/3 of that list because you know what? At the time I was 61. I'm like, I don't want to do any of this. Okay. Like that's back in the day. I don't want to do any of that. So I come back to work on January 2nd, put in my 2 weeks, and people are shocked. I'm like, people, do you not know how to read the room? Like, I have not been happy at all. And on the same day, I went ahead and opened my company, and I officially launched Schoser Talent and Wellness on January 22nd of this year.
Wow. So how's that going for you?
It's going okay. I had a couple of really good customers at the start, and now I've done a little bit of a pivot. I'm using a software called Base 44, and I'm building mental health applications for small businesses because small businesses can't afford like those other packages that are available for big companies. And so I'm making my own like little SaaS model of these applications that companies can use to help ensure that they're taking care of their employees' mental health.
Absolutely. Mental health is a big thing, especially, you know, I was an addict. And with that, it's just I was addicted because I didn't want to cope with everything else going on in my life. And that's mental health wise, that's trauma wise, that's all these other things. And I didn't know how to cope with it. And now, you know, my coping mechanism is talking to people, talking, helping the next person. And I know it gave me a whole list of questions to ask you on your little Podmatch profile. I, I could look over there and read them, but I could just ask you questions too.
You could
You
ask
know,
me anything. I'm a pretty much of an open book, but, Jay, eh, w what happens is, like, our minds get super messy, and
yeah,
we live in a society where there's so much shame and so much stigma and so much weakness put into us sharing our stories that we have to change that, and so our podcast is all about normalizing how we talk about mental health. If I'd had a podcast like ours when I was going through all my crap, I it probably would have helped me, right? But
absolutely.
all the other mental health podcasts that I found out there were, like, dry and, like, super clinical. We were the direct opposite of that. We allow our listeners to our guests to come in
Feel
and
the feeling.
and feel their feelings and be super vulnerable with us, and we tell their whole story because, on most podcasts, they only get to do the highlight reel. On our podcast, we let them tell their full story. So in some cases, they end up with either 2 episodes, and right now for season 13, we just opened up with a three-parter. People have already reached out to me this morning. They're like, "What do you mean you left me with a cliffhanger over the weekend?" Okay, my bad. I struggled with that, right? Like, I struggle with, like, doing right by our listeners and our guests, but also making sure that, we're covering the people that really need the help, and I've been there. I've been in the trenches. I know what it feels like to be so fucking depressed
You can't think.
you can't think, and I know what it feels like to hold all that in. So, this is my little PSA out there for anybody that's listening. If you have an extroverted friend and you think that they may not be doing well, please start asking them questions that they actually have to answer. Don't ask questions like, "Hey, how's your day going?" Because I'm gonna tell you what our standard answer is.
Oh, it's good.
All's good, we're living the dream. Ask
Survival nightmare.
yeah, ask better questions. Dig deeper. If somebody reaches out to you, there's a great Simon Sinek video out there. It's on YouTube. It's called 8 Minutes. You can afford 8 minutes for anybody, but I'm telling you, if we reach out to you and we're super, like, amped up or depressed, listen with your ears, not with your mouth. A lot of times what we need is we just need somebody to listen to us. Don't try and fix our problems. Don't try and don't side with us, right? Maybe we really do need help. Keep this number in your pocket. Keep that 988 number in your pocket. It's not just for suicide ideation, it's for anybody in crisis. They have trained therapists, trained crisis counselors there that can help you. I am telling you, I am alive today because of them. They gave me hope. And if you are thinking of taking your life, please remember you are loved, you are wanted, you are needed, and the world is a better place because you're here. And
Absolutely.
whatever shit you're going through today may not be as bad tomorrow, but give yourself a chance because the world's better because you're here. You may not think of it at that time, at least I wasn't. Give yourself patience and grace. The world is a piece of crap right now, and there's so much pain and hurt that's happening, but your pain could be turned into beautiful purpose, and you could help turn somebody else's life around, and that's why I keep talking about what happened to me and showing people that you can take all that horrible pain and turn it into something beautiful.
You can, absolutely. It's absolutely possible. And you know, I deal with a lot of people that don't think that anything they deserve happiness, that they don't. want to be happy, that they don't, uh, they can't find something that makes them happy, because they hold on to all this trauma or hold on to the past so much that the past is what makes us depressed. The past equals depression. When we think about it, when we hold on to it, we get depressed. We get depressed because we think we should be doing better. We get depressed because, oh, look at all these other people doing better. Look at all this. Yet, don't think about don't think about the future. Think about what you came through and how strong you are now, you know? And once you start learning to let things go, it makes it so much easier to be happier just for today, you know? And that takes a lot of work. I know it still does for me too. I have to do it daily, so I don't get depressed, because depression equals no good Jay, you know? It's for real. When I get depressed, I mean, I did 20 years in prison. I was an active addict for over 20 years. Yeah, I've got a lot of depressive issues, but I have to let them go. Now I can talk about them, and that's what helped me maintain my sobriety so far, is being able to talk about things and connecting with people, because I'm a crier. I cry all the time, you know, and I'm not afraid of it anymore. I used to be. I used to be. I wouldn't be able to, like, just thinking about hurtful and harmful things, it would hurt me. I mean, literally. And then I'm vulnerable to other people, and it's like, oh no, what's this going to bring me? More anxiety. You know, being vulnerable equals anxiety. You know, and it's just amazing that you've gone through all that. What made you decide to do the mental health side of it? I know you touched on a little bit of it.
Well, I worked for corporate America for 45 years, and in the 45 years that I worked there, I'm gonna say only one company I worked for did it really well. What I found in other companies is they didn't touch on employees' mental health, and here's the problem: if your employees' mental health is not in a good state, it's going to affect your bottom line, whether you believe it or not. So if you have a whole group of people in there where their morale has just tanked and they are, like, barely showing up to work, that affects your bottom line. And, the thing is that, big companies, like the Salesforces, the Microsofts of the world, they have a ton of money. They can afford those kind of programs. Small small businesses can't. And that's why I kind of pivoted my company to create these applications that they can, pitch out to their employees, and they're cheap. Like, I work because I want to, not because I have to. I mean, I kinda sorta have to, like, I gotta pay for my cell phone bill and, cable and things like that, but, for the first time in my life, I don't have health insurance because I can't afford it, right? As a small business owner, like, I can't justify spending $700 a month on something I'm probably gonna not use.
Right.
Um, so, I feel for the employees that are out there, like, corporate America burns you out, and you may not even understand that you're getting burned out, but maybe you don't have the tools in your company, or you don't have the money to go to therapy, or maybe you just don't know what to do. So I wanna give companies, like, a starting point to, like, give them the ability to just lift their employee spirits just a tiny bit.
So I'm still in school. After I got out of addiction, I started school, and I'm literally 6 months away from a bachelor's in business now. And my school's awesome because they provide mental health for free. Because student burnout. I mean, I'm a student and I'm like 40. I'm old. You know, and I'm a student. I'm thinking student burnout. What the hell is that shit? I'm doing a bachelor's in less than 2 years. What's burnout? you know. Yet I've had those times where, like, I don't want to do this shit no more. I will put off everything till the last minute and then ace it. I'm just one of those type of people, and it's like no schedule, no time management. I'm still shocked I have this much time management skills because I don't have much time at all, you know. And it's just because they provide that space where, yeah. burnout's real. If you need time, take it. Don't overdo yourself. I think that's what a lot of companies need too. Is like, okay, they need to be more forward thinking, and transformational instead of just transitional.
Yeah.
You know,
Be be more cognizant to what's going on under your own roof, right? Because here's what happens in today's world. Not only do they have the shit that they're dealing with internally at work, but there's a lot of shit coming in at us every day, right? It's coming in from the news. It's coming in from, what's happening around the world. We need to give employees those tools that they can just maybe just check out. So, like a couple of things I created was like, a daily, you as an employee you can go in and do a journal entry. Managers can't see what you wrote, but it like helps you kind of get out of your head. For me, I do a lot of writing. So, um funny talking about writing, I wrote a book, right? And so on my birthday, I had pitched my book out to about, 30 friends, and I'm like, "Hey, just read this, let me know what you think." And everybody came back and they said, number 1, we couldn't put it down. Number 2, we laughed and we cried, and 3, we walked away feeling empowered. And for me, that was everything I needed. I poured my heart and soul into this, and it talks about everything that happened from the start to the end. It's not even the end, like, this is my new beginning, but it gives a lot of tips and tricks for, people that have friends that are extroverts, because we mask our shit well.
we
Like,
do.
we are the best of the best when it comes to hiding what's really going on in our life. Not the best thing to do. If you are struggling and you're an extrovert, open yourself up. Take that mask out. Find that one friend that can help you out. Or if you can't find a friend, call 988. There's people out there that are willing to help. And if you don't have money for therapy, use a support group. They're free. I am telling you, when you open up to a bunch of people that have been feeling the same way that you were feeling, it's life changing.
So, for me, just my experience, I turned to social media to stay clean and sober. I started on TikTok, you know, and I started opening up boxes and a forum that everybody could come and talk to, and I could talk to them too. That was my thing, is I needed to talk about myself a lot to other people that understood. And what I found was this whole great support system, this whole great community that supports us. We support each other. And it's crazy that not so many, like Miranda down there just said, it's crazy that people really still don't understand what 988 is. No, it's not. You're not going to have a cop show up at your door. You know, it's literally somebody that's going to talk to you and listen to you, and just, yeah, no bullshit. You know.
And just remember, there's no shame, there's no weakness, and we should not have any stigma about opening up, because that's the problem, right? We created a society where, like, you get people that will look down on you because you open up about your mental health struggles. Okay, people, stop, because that is part of the problem. Open up. Let people know how you're feeling. You have people that love you. You may not feel yourself, you may not have any self-love, but there are other people out there that are counting on you to know that your things can get better. But you have to work at it. There's no easy button. Believe me, if there was an easy button, I would have like pressed that like 400 times. Okay, there's no easy button, right? You
But
have to be willing to put the work in. And if you're willing to do that, I will tell you the beautiful life that lays ahead of you. And you know what? I still get depressed, but I have way better tools now than I had in 2022. And I, I you know, I love that you have an audience and that we can continue having these amazing conversations because they're important. And for the men out there, there is no shame, there is no weakness, there is no stigma about you having mental health. The more that you open up, the better this world becomes. And it goes the same for women.
It is, and it's, for men, it's, I think the whole be a man, I'll give you something to cry about. Oh, man up, and all that bullshit has created a society that is so mentally unsound, so extroverted that we can put on a mask. Oh, everything's cool. We're good. Nope, I'm fine. Yeah, I'll take care of it. Whatever. And while we go out to the garage or go out for a motorcycle ride at 100 or 150 miles an hour, hoping, maybe wishing that, car cool pulls out in front of me. Okay, cool. Done. Not my fault. You know, and that's the way we coped with things. That, or we turned to a substance. And I did a lot of both. I'm big on bikes, and I would go 100, 160 miles an hour down the highway. I'm from Colorado. I live in Florida now, but in Colorado, traffic's crazy, and I'm splitting lanes. It's not, and you're not supposed to. It's illegal. So I'm splitting lanes, rush freaking hour in Denver traffic, and I'm going as fast as I can. And that was my mental health. That was my way to cope with situations outside of addiction. you know and now it's, I think about that, I'm like, yeah, that was fun, I'm glad I didn't get hit by nothing. you know I would never do that again. It's just, it was like a suicide attempt, literally hoping somebody would pull out in front of me, or hoping that I would lose control, because my life was out of control anyway, so all I had control of was these two wheels and how fast I would go. It's just crazy.
It it's the craziness that goes on in our head, right? And in our case, the shit that goes on in our head, because we all have shit that goes on in our head. And like sometimes we're making super rational decisions, and other times we are not. I have the little devil on my shoulder and I have the little angel on my shoulder. A lot of days they are fighting with each other. Okay, like, do we do this or do we do that? Like, that's that's what makes my life beautiful, though, right? Because I'm messy
You
and
know, sometimes,
I'm imperfect, and I'm okay with that.
yeah, and the chaos that goes on inside of our head. There's a lot of chaos out in the world too. But when we get those less chaotic times, when we can get those voices to quiet for 10 minutes, that's something I'm like, yeah, y'all.
Yeah,
That's all in
like
the bank right there.
that is like those best moments. So you know how I get those moments is I try and spend a lot of time outdoors. I live in upstate New York. There's 5 months out of the year I don't get to spend a lot of time outside. So during the summer, spring, and fall, I'm outside as much as I can. I also turned to writing. Writing helped me a lot. What happened with me is, I would start writing down everything that was going through my day. I would write in the morning, I would write in the afternoon, and then when I got ready to write my book, I would go back through my journal so I would remember the things that were important to me. And then I found like journal entries that kind of pissed me off. So you know what I did? I crumpled them up. And when we get ready to have the big fall fire, they're going in the fire pit because those were memories that you don't need to have in your head.
And that's what I
And
tell people too.
it, like you can't fix a past. You can't. Okay? Live for today. I know it's hard because that shit keeps coming back. But live for today and find your joy because even though the world is on fire, we can still find our joy today. And it could be little things. It could be a little kid laughing. It could be like these dumb ass raccoon videos I've been watching. There's this guy on Facebook, and like these raccoons invade her patio every morning at like 2 a.m. And just the voiceover makes me laugh so hard. Yes, I get it. They're little trash pandas, but they're funny and cute and they make me laugh. And so, starting your day with some laughter helps. And one of the things I started doing since January 20th is I have started my mornings with 20 minutes of laughter. And it's either watching like a dumb raccoon video, like, because I'm all about the raccoons lately, or chickens, or people doing stupid shit. It makes me laugh. And then after that, I have a gratitude practice and I stand up and I say what I'm grateful for that day. Even if it's, I'm grateful that I could take a breath. Gratitude practices help you. It, there's a connection between your heart and your head. And
There's yeah.
I really want people to, you know, to know that it's okay to have these thoughts. It is. Like, we're human. Life gets really lifey sometimes, like super lifey. But
Mm.
y- you're loved and you're wanted and needed. And if you're if you are a suicide attempt survivor or a suicide loss survivor, I also co-host another podcast. It's called the Survivors Podcast, and it's run by me and my friend Lisa Sugarman. I am a suicide attempt survivor. She's a suicide loss survivor and also a crisis counselor on the Trevor Hotline. We have some really in depth conversations about what it means to be on both sides of suicide. Did I ever plan to be a mental health advocate? I didn't. Nor did I plan on having a mental health breakdown, but it happened. And I took everything that was horrible about it and turned it into something beautiful. And I hope that people that are listening know that depression doesn't have to take over your life.
And I think a lot of times when we let the past in and let it rule how we are, I think we're a lot scared of letting it go. We're scared of letting that past go because you know what? That's also my defense mechanism. That's also the way I keep people away. Also the way I keep safe is I got all this past trauma, and if I don't have to let it go, that means I get to, push people away and keep them out and potentially hurt them. But I'm the one that's hurt. So you know what? Yeah, it's not my fault now. It's my trauma's fault. It's my trauma's fault that I can't be happy. And that's just because you're too scared to work on it. A lot of times it's just you're too scared to let it go.
And and the scary thing about it is, yeah, you have to a lot of times you have to open up that hood and take a really hard look at what's going on and learn how to grow. And it's hard. I cried a lot. I cried a lot for 2.5 years. The first 6 months were really, really hard for me because it opened up a lot of really horrible things I didn't want to discuss. But here's the two things that therapy taught me. And the first thing it taught me was how to set boundaries and how to say no. Okay, that is absolutely freeing. And at 61, well, I just turned 62, I will tell you that was another life changer for me because now, like, I created this little box. It's an imaginary box. I call it my drama box. It's a black box. If it smells like drama, man, I really got to think about if it gets to come into the box anymore, right? Like, is this going to suck the life out of me? Can I help? I ask myself like 3 or 4 questions. I'm like, if it's not going to help me and it's just going to like take me back to where I was, it doesn't get to come in. And then also being an empath, learning how to put my shield up a little bit faster so I can deflect some of that emotion from me because empaths, man, we it's hard. It's hard when a lot of little shit starts happening all at the same time.
We care so much that, we all those people that are going through stuff that tell us things, we hold on to those. And, there comes a time that we have to draw a line and say, okay, this is considered work and this is considered not work, but where and how does that, you know, Oh man, I could just go on and on about the times that I've burnt out doing listening to people because it affected me personally. That
Yes.
I feel their emotions and feelings, and I still do. It's like, but now I know where to stop, to let things go, and not let it affect my life because I I, I care for people, but I care enough about you that it's not going to affect me.
Yes. And I love that, we are like two of the same type of people. We're extroverts and empaths. We get sucked in faster than you would ever think. But here's where that shield concept comes in, right? Like once I kind of feel like it's coming on, I automatically put my shield up. And over the summer, I wasn't quite quick enough, and I had a couple of days where I got really, like, burned out again, and I, I took my own advice. I took the advice that, I put out on the podcast every day, about self-love and self-care, and I checked out for 2 days. Like, I didn't come into my I own my own company, so I didn't work for a couple of days. I spent a lot of times outdoors, and I just sat with everything that was going on, and, you know, it was at a time when the world was crazy and crappy things were happening all around me, and I just couldn't get my shield up fast enough because it was like getting shot, right? Like, with a high-powered rifle, and I just couldn't stop, and once I recognized that and I took my own advice, I was able to come back a couple of days later and I felt better. But, same with you, Jay, is, I open a lot on, social media. It took me probably 6 months to open up to my professional network because once again, I felt the shame and the stigma, but that's how I got into, having my suicide attempt because of the shame and the stigma. So finally, I just opened up. I was like, "Yeah, fuck it. You know what? People need to know where I stand, what I'm going through." And once I did that, I started getting a pretty good following.
So,
Bec
you ever go through like I'm sorry to cut you off, but did you ever go through like a stage where if you're going through something and you're in your head a lot, you've got to actually go through it to be able to talk about it? Because that's the way I am. I have to actually work it out myself before I can even talk about it to anybody. That's exactly how I am. And it sucks sometimes, and I don't want anybody to fix nothing. It's like I'm not asking anybody to fix nothing. I just need to do this by myself and then I can talk about it, or else things are just going to get worse.
so much truth to that. So, my wife asks me all the time. She'll see me struggling with something, and she's like, "Here, let me help you. Let me help you." And I had to put my foot down. I'm like, "Let me struggle. If I need help, I'm going to ask you for help, but let me struggle because I'm working it out in my head as I'm doing it." And I'm like, "If I need help, I will ask." I mean, but she's trying to be helpful. But sometimes, like, if you keep asking me if I "Can I help you? Can I help you?" I'm just wanna punch you, okay? Like, let me fail on my own first, and then if I still need help, I'm gonna ask for help, but let me fail
Yeah.
because that's how I learn.
Either yeah, it's that first attempt in learning, fail. That great acronym, first attempt in learning, FAIL. And we don't fail, we just learn, you know, because let's face it, we're the only people that can tell us that whether we're failures or not. Everybody else's opinion doesn't really matter except for our own. And I've just learned that. And I've just learned that sometimes I have to take my own advice, which is the hardest damn thing to do. you know it's like I can talk about it all the time, but let's put it into practice, and it's like, oh god, why me? Why do I have to take my own advice? Damn it. you know
A and there's no you know, y there's nothing to be ashamed of. Like, if we have to ask for help, I ask for help, but I sometimes I wanna struggle just to make sure that I can
Make it through.
like, make it through or work out this crazy idea in my head, like, So, developing this software for companies. The software that I use, it's called Base 44, and it's prompt-based software, so it's no code. AI writes it for me, but it's all my own idea. And, as I'm, like, going through there and I'm, like, testing it out, and I'm like, "Why is this not working?" And so I will tell it to try and do something else, and I'm like, "Okay, I'm not thinking logically," and when I'm super depressed or super in my head, I can't think logically, and that's what happens to a lot of us when we have so much going on. So, what I've been doing is now just stepping away, offering myself a little bit of patience, a little bit of grace, trying to work out, like, things in my head. If I get super stuck, I'll ask for help, I'll ask for some suggestions, but I'm just so thankful that I get to be here to do this, and that I took care of my mental health, and I continue to take care of my mental health, and that I get to talk to amazing people like you, Jay, because you remind me of what my why is, and I'm you know, I hope that my parents are looking down on me, and are happy that I finally get my shit together. I mean,
I,
I'm 62 years old, and I'm finally like, we made something of ourselves. But I get to, talk to amazing people on our podcast, that have made me a better person and have reminded me why I do what I do, and that the world is still healing, and we're healing together, and I'm so proud of you. I'm proud of everything that you've done, everything that you accomplished. Um, I'm so sorry to hear of your wife, but I'm here as a friend, as a colleague, as a human. I
yeah,
life is hard. Life gets super lifey sometimes, and, like, I don't like lifey shit. But I have been so when I opened my company, I decided I would take every Monday off until it gets cold again, just so I can, clear the cobwebs out of my head. And I've been doing a lot of fishing with my wife, and that is one thing I can do where I can actually just be at one with myself and with nature. And so if you're out there, and you're kind of like stuck in your head, just get out. Get out. Okay, maybe it's raining today. That's cool. You know what? Color, journal, go watch a raccoon video. Get out of your head. Find something that's gonna make you feel better. And, the other thing we have to do is quit talking bad to ourselves, okay? Because when we have negative self-talk, it's like those text messages you get that are all caps, and it's the shittiest thing you would ever say to somebody that you wouldn't say to their face. Okay, turn that around. Like, just turn it around into something positive. And so instead of that negative self-talk, turn it into something that you did right today. And,
I like to say, if you're going to talk to somebody, talk about you in the mirror, and you wouldn't let somebody else talk to you like that.
yeah,
You wouldn't let somebody else do all that negative talk, downgrade you, disrespect you like that. So why are you doing it to yourself?
yeah, like, it's just mean, okay? Offer yourself patience and grace. We are humans. We are not robots. We are allowed to have emotions. We are allowed to have all the feelings. Yeah, maybe shit doesn't sit right with us, okay? Fine. You know what? Move on. It's not gonna be there forever, but you have to just practice kindness. That's my other thing for today is, you know what? The world is on fire. Literally on fire right now. It costs you nothing to be nice. Nothing. If you don't have anything nice to say, walk
Walk
away.
away.
Walk away. Like, it's not worth it. It's not.
Sometimes the nicest thing you can do is walk away.
Yeah. Yeah,
You
like,
know,
what's it gonna do to your mental health, right? Like, yeah, you're gonna yell at somebody. Is that really helpful? I don't think it is. Walk away.
walk
You
away.
you walk into a store, you see somebody behind the counter, they have a name tag on. Call them by their name. That's probably the nicest thing you've done all day.
Smile. Offer them, hey, how's it going? Yeah,
Yeah.
they're bored too. They want to talk too. They lack interaction. People lack interaction, and the best thing we can do is carry ourselves with a smile. I don't care.
Carry
Smile.
yourself with a smile because going back to me being an extrovert and an empath, you have absolutely no idea what's going on inside my head. None. So you being a dick to me is not helping the situation. Okay. Like I already might be feeling down. You being a dick is not helping. Right? Walk away.
For Miranda down there, you know what else is addicting? Red pandas. Just saying, chicken banana. And that song is so. Oh, I hate that song. I don't really hate it, but I think it's funny. Yeah, yeah. Smile. If we can just smile at the next person, smile at the next person. That might be all it takes. That could be all it takes to say, "Hey, I see you." That's it. You know, People need to be noticed. People lack that. A lot of times I lack being seen, or being heard, and I think a lot of people are like that. A lot of people that are going through any type of struggles in their life are going, it's because we lack notice. We don't feel very worth it. Our worth level is still rock bottom. And I'm just starting to get that back. For me, I'm just starting to feel good enough again. Not good enough to for everything, but just good enough, you
Just
know?
good enough. And when we do things are that come from our heart, right? Kindness, things like that, it helps us. You may end up saving their life. They may be having the crappiest day ever, and if you just say hello to them or offer them a little kindness, a little patience, a little grace, wow, it, it, it could be a game changer for them.
It opens up so many more doors just being nice to people. Genuinely caring about people opens so many more doors than just being an asshole.
Yeah.
You know?
Listen, my days of being an asshole are done because, once I hit 60, I decided that I didn't have to give a whole lot of F's about a lot of things. And then when I hit 62, that list got even bigger. But like, don't wait until you're in your 60s to get to that point, right? Set your boundaries now, put your shields up, take care of your mental health, open up, be kind to yourself. Please just be kind to yourself. The world's already shitty to us as it is. You don't need to be shitty to yourself. And
Yeah.
remember that you are enough. You really are. And it took me a really long time to get to this point. I am enough. And
And I gotta say, I know we're getting close to our hour, and I don't care, but I got to tell you, Gretchen, that you've been awesome. First of all, I'm so glad Pete said, "Hey, you should try this person," and everything that you do and everything that you've said, I mean, it really hits home because, I've gone through those issues too, and I'm proud of you. I'm proud of
thank
everything
you.
that you're becoming. I mean, you are definitely a worth, and I value you too. You know, it's amazing how far apart yet connected we can be. You know, that's the opposite of addiction is connection too. You know, Being connected with people doesn't mean I'm lonely anymore. Yes, I can be alone, but I'm not lonely anymore. And that right there is a big thing. That's a that's a killer. Being lonely can be a killer. You know, and being heard and valued and seen, that is a lifesaver. You know,
It is. And I'm proud of you. I mean, look where you've come in the last year. Here you are on a mic talking to people, being your authentic self. If you ever get asked to be on a podcast, anybody, be your vulnerable self. Show your true emotion. That's how we heal people. Every time we share our stories, we open up somebody else's prison. And that's so important now. And the most amazing thing about podcasts is that they are not geographically based. Um, and we have listeners from all around the world. Like I said, I'm still trying to figure out how fuck gets translated in Japanese, but, whatever. It still goes through my head every day. I'm like, "How does this happen?" But, I'm so thankful that we get to have these types of conversations, and, you made me feel so comfortable and so loved, and I'm so gracious to you for everything that you're doing in this world, and so incredibly proud of you for showing up for yourself every day.
I definitely look forward to more conversations with you. I don't care where, but yeah, I am definitely looking to hearing more from you.
Well,
And
I can't wait for my book to come out. Once my book comes out, I'll come back on and we can talk about the book.
awesome. I I'm gonna be a buy. Mom, buy that book.
Buy
uh,
lots of books.
buy lots of books. I love it. And you got anything you want to add or anything you want to say? Maybe hit 988 again.
Yeah, so, like, 3 things. If you are in crisis or have suicide ideation right now, if you're in the United States or Canada, please call 988. They are there for a reason. They have trained counselors that can get you from 1 minute to the next hour to the next day. If you wanna find out more about my podcast, go out to goesonourheads.net, or if you wanna find out more about, my company, go to shosersolutions.com. Last thing, if you are an extrovert, take your mask off today. Find that one person that is your safe person, and and just keep living.
And on that, I hope all y'all enjoyed our show and keep rocking your recovery. Until next time, thank you. And